Hello and welcome to Music Analysis, Theory and Technique, the series where we unpack the ideas, the craft and the trickery in some of the better known and some of the lesser known musical works. Today we're looking at Third Stone from the Sun by none other than Jimi Hendrix. As keeping with the theme of this series, I wanted to revisit all of the classic tracks that first inspired me as a guitar player and musician and hopefully share that inspiration with you. For those of you watching for the first time, my name is Harry. I've played guitar most of my life, studied composition at the Conservatorium of Music here in Sydney, Australia, and also studied audio engineering. I teach, do session work, and make videos. And I currently have a new heavy metal band called Spawn of Seed, which you are more than welcome to check out if you so desire. Let's get into it. What a beautiful melody. I know that this isn't the most well-known song off of the first Hendrix album, but in some way I feel like it's the one that's the most peculiar to Jimmy. It seems even more authentic than the others in some way. And I love it, and it always stood out to me. And there's some great theory going on behind the playing, and we're going to have a look at that today, starting with that first melody, the main melody that we just heard then. If you read online or watch some videos, you'll see that people were saying it's a Mixolydian run. And that is correct. I'm not disputing that. But I'd also like to make the case about it being a major pentatonic melody from its initial approach that steps a foot into Mixolydian for a bit and then comes back. And the reason I bring this up is if we play this just as single notes for a moment rather than octaves. Now that is all pure E major pentatonic. We have our third, second, first, and then that's our major six coming back up to the root, to the E. It's the start of the second phrase that gives it the Mixolydian edge. We start here on this D note. Now, if we were in a regular E major scale, that'd be a D sharp. But in this case, we have a D natural instead. And this is what makes all the difference. But we only play that D note once, and then we're straight back into a major pentatonic. And even this ending bit. So really, we just have our major pentatonic for the most part, and it steps into Mixolydian. And I know that the major pentatonic scale fits into the Mixolydian scale, but the reason I bring it up is it's something that Jimmy does a whole lot, not just in this song or even on this record, but something that he did throughout his entire career, with his songwriting as well as with his improvisation. He seems to have a either major or minor pentatonic bass for a lot of his music. And then when it's necessary, he steps out of that pentatonic scale to bring in other notes from modes or from other scales, and then steps back into the pentatonic afterwards. So he's sort of existing in between these two places where it's pentatonic and then it's not, and then it's coming back again. And this melody illustrates that really well. We have something that is definitely rooted in a major scale, a major pentatonic scale, but it steps into the Mixolydian mode for a bit and then it returns back. But funnily enough, it's not the only scale that he's using in this song. And we're going to take a look at a couple other little statements, musical statements in this piece that he uses something else. The next one we get this really interesting line right at the start of the piece. Now, this isn't Mixolydian and it's not even a major pentatonic scale either. We obviously have this open E drone note on the top, but the interesting part is that we get the minor third instead of major, minor. And so what he's using here is a Dorian scale. So you can see that the difference between a Mixolydian scale and a Dorian scale is only a single note, and it's that third. In the Mixolydian, we have a major third, and then in the Dorian, we have a minor third. And that's the change that's happened here for this phrase. He swapped to Dorian, and we can be sure that it is Dorian because he finishes really heavily on this C sharp, which is a dead giveaway that it is Dorian. It's almost like an E minor to A major kind of feel, which means that we've already ticked off 2 scales and we're going to add in a third now. So this is the third little phrase that's in this first half of the song. And this one's quite different. There's an argument, I think, to be made that this is a tonicization of B for a little bit. It's not a full-blown modulation, but it's very B-rooted for a while. But for the sake of this video, what we're going to do is just continue to look at everything through an E-centric perspective. And in this case, it means that we're playing an Aeolian scale or a natural minor scale. We get this phrase, and again, this is one that's shifting between 2 scales. The opening bit, if we are still considering it as being E-rooted, is what we would call Aeolian. And the reason for that is we have a C natural now. So we've kind of moved another scale degree on from what we had originally. We had the Mixolydian first. We lowered that third, so it became a minor third for the Dorian scale. And now we're lowering the 6th scale degree from a C sharp to a C natural. And that's what's giving us our Aeolian or our natural minor scale. Very minor sounding. But interestingly, he doesn't stay in that mode for long. He then shifts back to our minor pentatonic scale. So, and then he jumps up to back into our, everyone's favorite position. Which means that we have arguably a total of 5 scales just in the opening few statements of this piece. We're seeming like we're very E dominant for the most part, with the exception of maybe tonicizing B for a little bit, but we're kind of working our way through a bunch of different modes. If we want to include the pentatonic scales in the mix here too, then we have 5 scales. We had the major pentatonic scale at the start with the Mixolydian scale, mixing the 2. We had a Dorian run, and we've also had an Aeolian run that then shifts back to pentatonic, but this time it's the minor pentatonic. And this is the mark of a extremely talented musician. I mean, Jimmy's obviously one of the best, if not the best of the best, especially in the guitar world.
How about one of the best sitting in this chair?
In this piece, he illustrates some really interesting music theory and does so in a very approachable manner. The song doesn't come off as being overly harmonically complex or wordy, so to speak. And he's able to weave his way through all of these different scales in the opening few statements of a song, and it doesn't come off as being alienating to the listener. I hope that you've had some fun with this video. I know that I've enjoyed being able to come back and look at one of the songs that first inspired me on the guitar and in music in general. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I don't know if I'll be able to answer them, but maybe we can, and maybe we can have a discussion. Maybe you've got a story about the song that you'd like to share with the world. If you've gotten some value out of this video, a like and a subscribe does go a long way in helping the channel. And maybe you'd like to check out some of the other series that we have on here. There is one that's about the transition from rock to jazz, and there's also one called Sheets of Lead, which is a heavy metal inspired covers series. As always, thanks for watching, happy playing, and I'll catch you in the next one.